Growing up, Nintendo was a huge part of my life, and it still is. My first console was a Super Nintendo. My first handheld was a Game Boy Advance. My best friend is a big Nintendo fan, and I'd go to his house to play Wii and the GameCube. I went to high school during the peak of Smash 4, when Cloud and Bayonetta were still the craziest additions to the series. And after years of being a PlayStation fan, I decided to make the move back to Nintendo and buy a Switch, a decision I do not regret in the slightest. Despite all this, there are so many lovely games that they've given us that I still haven't played. Nintendo, while not perfect by any means, is a company with a rich and impactful history. They've changed the gaming industry for the better and inspired so many others to make games of their own. I thought I'd rectify my mistake one small step at a time. This is the first episode of a new series I call the Ninten Project, named after the original protagonist of the Mother series. This series won't be as frequent as my other videos. I only have so much time to dedicate to so many things. This series still means quite a bit to me, and it's a journey I look forward to traveling. With that being said, it's only right that I start off this series with some good shit. I'm fucking amazed it took me even this long to try out Melee. I genuinely have no idea why I didn't do it already. The first thing to note about the game is its iconic design. Everything you see, everything you hear. It's a sweet treat in video game form. The UI is probably my favorite I've seen for a video game ever. The dark purple tone in the background, contrasted with the glowing bright yellow select icon, is just beautiful. The sounds in this game are some of the most recognizable and most satisfying sounds ever. From the select screen to the sounds of moves connecting to the opponent. Even the taunts are iconic.
Show me your moves!
The art style for the game is also well done. In terms of the in-game models, it doesn't feel as though anybody is out of place in this game. And we're talking about a game where you can have a space fox fight a rat that summons lightning.
Come on!
The polygons still hold up quite well even after 20 years since the game's release. I could suggest that you try Animaly for a more updated art style, but there's nothing wrong with keeping the classic look. It even looks good in HD. It's time we talk about the roster. The game comes with 26 playable characters, considering Zelda and Sheik are technically 2 characters in one. In my eyes, it's the perfectly sized roster. While Smash Ultimate's roster will go down as something really special, it's a bit too big for my taste. This roster is just right though. When you look back at the game's roster now, it's timeless. Every single character in this roster has returned for Ultimate, if not Brawl. Think about this game at the time of its release though. Everyone in the West knew most of the characters. Mario, Link, Pikachu, those were a given. Yet, I bet $100 no one back in the day knew who the fuck Marth was. When Melee came out, none of the Fire Emblem games even came out in the US. Sakurai liked these characters so much, he kept them in the game regardless of no localization. Suddenly, Lucas's inclusion makes a lot of sense. Fun fact, Sakurai considered adding a character named Ayumi Tachibana from a Japanese-only Famicom game called Famicom Detectives Club. Eventually, she never got added due to her series not having a US release. Personally, I really like the addition of characters like Marth or Game & Watch. They represent what Smash should be, a celebration of Nintendo's history as a top-tier gaming company. Sakurai still does this with later releases like adding Rob in Brawl or Wii Fit Trainer in Smash 4. They're not the characters we expected, but it's still pretty cool to have them around. The gameplay is what really makes Melee stand out from the other titles. I played Multiverses a ton when that first came out, and I remember everyone complaining about how the game was just too slow for them. Before I played Melee, I didn't really see what the big deal was. Now that I have played Melee, holy shit do I understand. Characters in the game aren't just fast, it feels like they sniffed a line of the good stuff before the round started. Animations are fast, yet animated well enough to not look rough or half-assed. They're really well done. Add those with the sound effects, and landing moves on people has never felt so satisfying. Sakurai put so much of his blood, sweat, and tears into this game, he had to go to the hospital. No, I mean he literally had to go to the hospital. Let me give you a brief timeline. The original Smash Bros. Released in Japan on January of 1999. Sakurai then comes up with the initial proposal of Melee in July of the same year. He also puts out a poll asking what new characters should be added for a proposed Smash 2. Sakurai starts development of Melee in August of 2000. Development only lasts 13 months before the game's November release. Sakurai's lifestyle during this time had been coined as destructive, as for those 13 months, he went to work for 40 hours, went home to sleep for 4, and then came back to work again. The man ate, drank, and slept Melee. When he got to work on the soundtrack for the game, he collapsed and had to be given an IV drip at the local hospital. It was all worth it though, as Sakurai's struggles resulted in a game that was better than the last and highly refined.
All you gotta do is go for back air, right?
What the?
Whoa!
What just happened?
Oh no!
Well, almost refined. Yeah, as it turned out, while Melee is still considered one of Nintendo's best games, and rightfully so, it came packaged with a metric fuck ton of glitches. Lots of these glitches resulted in unintended mechanics that would be used in Melee's developing competitive scene. Mechanics like L cancelling and wave dashing would end up defining the competitive scene and gave the game even more depth than it already did. I can make a whole video on the scene alone, and I plan to do that someday. All I can say now is, glitches or not, this game is some of the best fun I've had in a long while. I should also bring up the replayability of this game, not just from the technical standpoint, but from the fact that there's so many different modes. You have the multi-man melees where you can face against 100 CPUs, classic mode which acts as the game's arcade mode, and adventure mode where you travel to different worlds from classic Nintendo games facing against different opponents to reach your goal. This is possibly my favorite mode in the entirety of Melee. There's also the different customization options that allows for unique matches to spice things up between friends. I can never see myself getting bored of this game. Giving myself a chance to mess around with this game made me really appreciate it. Smash Ultimate has been described as a celebration of gaming, but Melee itself is a great celebration of Nintendo and its rich history. From its interesting character picks to its fun little trophies, Sakurai never misses an opportunity to make this game even more memorable. I also have to highlight the soundtrack. Melee gives new renditions of popular tracks from previous Nintendo titles and they fit the game properly. Even 20 years later, people still discover new things about the game, from its gameplay to little hidden secrets. This game made me realize how amazing Nintendo's library really is and inspired me to make this series. This was a good starting point for my journey, and I'm excited to see where I go from here. With that being said, I'm Jay Samra. Goodbye, sayonara, alvida, peace!